Joining us on the podcast once again today is a returning champion to our Cracked Racquet shows. Of course, you know her now as the marketing manager for all things Universal Tennis. I know her as my friend Nina Pantic. Nina, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
It is an honor to be back. Oh my God, it's been so long.
It's been a full month. You got a month off from my voice. You know, I had to recover after you called out my nerddom, and I was like, I need a month until I'm ready to face Nina again. But I've sussed out all of the nerdiness, and now I'm a cool podcast host ready to pod with you.
I can't afford to burn this bridge, so I'm so glad to be back.
Let me just tell you, on the list of things you can afford to burn, this bridge is like 1A, very clearly number 1A. But it is great to have you back on the show, and maybe something you might know better than anyone else here on a Tennis Channel Podcast Network show. We are contractually obliged to lead with the latest Novak Djokovic story. Of course, that Djokovic story being that he has found out, he's been informed by the Australian government, by Australian immigration minister, that his visa has officially been canceled. What does that mean? Still kind of unclear. One would think with his visa being canceled that he will be deported. That, of course, would be the typical procedural follow-up to that sort of decision. But as we've learned, there will be another appeal process lodged. And if we learned anything from the first appeal process, it's that you never know quite exactly how this story is going to turn out. Of course, it is worth noting that last time, why was the decision overturned? It was on procedural grounds. Novak Djokovic wasn't granted the proper allotted amount of time to get his documentation in order and come up with his excuses as to why there were so many discrepancies in his initial visa request. Of course, it's always worth considering in this story, Novak Djokovic, the most prominent, probably immigrant to try and enter the country in the past 10 years, to have himself rejected. Just think of the millions of immigrants who aren't able to have the high-profile lawyers and the high-profile case all documented and immediately responded to. It's worth keeping that context in mind. But of course, here we are a tennis podcast. We want to focus on the Novak Djokovic aspect of the story. Nina, there's a lot of different directions I could take this. The impact on the draw, the impact moving forward on the tour. I'm not going to do that, though. I just want to leave it an open question to you, your response to all of this.
I think it's been a circus. No one looks good. That's a fact. Every day has been a different news cycle. It's been so up and down. I cannot imagine if he does end up playing by some miracle. Now it feels like it's going to be a miracle for him to play, but 24 hours ago it was like guaranteed he was going to play. So it's been confusing. I cannot imagine how he would even perform if he actually gets to play. So it's just been a mess and a circus. And, you know, what I've not enjoyed, that's not the right word, but what I've noticed is how mainstream, whenever tennis goes mainstream, it's always for something bad, something really, really bad. When my friends that do not play tennis are texting me about tennis news, something bad has happened. And it's like people are excited to talk about it, but it's never good. And I hate that. So this has been really bad, I think, for everyone. I'm actually curious to see how the draw does change if he does pull out, because this would probably be the first time, I don't know, if ever, the Australian Open lost the top seed after the draw was made. So, I mean, the implications are numerous and overall very negative for everyone. So It's a mess.
And of course, the other thing he faces with this visa cancellation is a 3-year ban from Australia. And of course, he's won 9 Australian Opens in his career. It's the slam he's had the most success at. He still is in pursuit of his 21st major title. All of these little things factor into this as well. And you're right, there is not a single person who comes out of this looking rosy. Not the Australian government, not Craig Tiley and Craig Tennis Australia, certainly not Novak Djokovic as more information continues to emerge surrounding his scenario. I don't think the ATP Tour looks particularly good as well. Once again, they are, extraordinarily busy finding time not to comment on anything. And so that's clearly the struggle for them. And just, I even think for the WTA Tour moving forward, this is something you want to get in front of as well, just so that, and I know it appears certainly that the majority, if not all, of the prominent players on the WTA Tour have already been vaccinated. I believe they've reported that they are over the 80% threshold. The ATP reported that 97% of the top 100 is vaccinated. We're talking about 3 examples. One of them just happens to be the most prominent on the ATP Tour. That's where I want to end this conversation quickly, is just how do we avoid this situation moving forward? And to me, the simplest solution would be a vaccine mandate. And I understand the U.S. Supreme Court just overturned Joe Biden's vaccine mandates, and that does have implications. Will the ATP WTA tours be allowed to do it? Although I would point out again, it's an international sport. I know other countries will have vaccine mandates, some will not, but the simplest way to avoid gray area, in my opinion, is to just say, look, here's the choice. You're vaccinated, you play. You're not going to be able to play. There's no gray area in that scenario. To me, that seems like the only option, Nina. Am I missing anything?
It does seem like a no-brainer, but it's so tricky because like different governments are different, right? Like I think even to enter the U.S., you could be unvaccinated. You just have to have a negative test in the past day, a PCR test. So the problem is that like you'd have to have the whole world be on board. And we're not going to get political on this particular podcast, but there's just so much gray area in every single country, and tennis is so international. But you're right. There's only the biggest solution is to get rid of the gray area. Yeah. But that's not giving anyone freedom, and we do love our freedom. So my biggest concern, my biggest like issue now is that Novak hasn't had a chance or hasn't taken the chance to speak out publicly. So without people being able to ask him these questions and really discuss it publicly, it's tricky to know how to judge him and judge anyone without knowing the full story. And until we have him on a microphone speaking, I mean, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but I'd love to hear from him. And I know there's a lot of juicy questions people want to ask him, but I'd be curious to hear from him directly.
True story. The tagline for the PTPA is liberty, freedom, and justice for all. That's all we know they stand for. But yeah, it's, our better press conference here. This is where we can actually end things. Djokovic family or Scott Morrison? Which one did you enjoy more?
The family. Come on. That was good. That was so good. I mean, of course, his family is going to defend him to the very end. And you have to respect that in a way. But yeah, the family one was common. It was gold.
Mrs. Djokovic referred to him winning the appeal as his greatest victory of all time, and that was the first question I was given when I did a TV hit, and I was like, well, at least it was on a court. I was like, I think that counts, but like that was the lead-in question. I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, what are we doing?
I wish we could just get back to the tennis. Honestly, I think everyone's had an opinion, everyone's had these stances, and it's not a good conversation, and no matter what direction you go. So I'm happy that the tournament is going to start. Will he be playing? We don't know, but that's okay because tennis is going to happen. And that's a really big win because you never know. Like the tournament could have moved to a different country, could have been canceled. I mean, the pandemic is clearly surging all over the world. So that's our primary focus.
Well, I'm just trying to think what could be the next tennis story that could puncture international news, like actually related to tennis, because it's not the fact that there was no International Tennis Hall of Fame nominees for the first time since 1955, which, by the way, Nina, is freaking crazy. Like, you'd think they could find one player.
The list of nominees was so great, too. We had Ivanovic, we had Cara Black, we had Flavia Pennetta, we had Lisa Raymond. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, Nina Pantic's on the ballot. I'm on the ballot. We
have Leighton Hewitt, and that's actually great because Leighton's going to get his whole year, and he's going to be the primary focus of the entire ceremony in July, which is pretty cool. So we have Leighton Hewitt, and that's exciting. And look at the positives of the situation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who had a better career, Leighton Hewitt or Anna Ivanovic. I mean, evidently, for now, the thought is Leighton Hewitt, but slam-wise, they're pretty similar.
No, I think Hewitt has 2 slams and she's got 1. But the key, though, is that it does show the Hall of Fame is very serious about who they let in, which is cool because it shows that they're not just going to let anyone in. I mean, not that these people are anyone, but you know what I mean? Like they're showing that there is a certain criteria and they have to follow the rules. And the Hall of Fame, has a certain set of like what you need to do and how and who has to vote and 75% vote and all this different stuff. So you know what? It's showing that they're sticking to their criteria and their voting process and democracy, right?
Yeah.
And that's
we love freedom. We love freedom. That's the theme here.
We love rules. We don't love gray area. We don't love gray area.
I like that. No, that's good. I mean, yeah, I think the biggest argument I've ever gotten in with Ben Rothenberg is at the end he just goes, Alex, if you think it's the Hall of Very Good, that's fine. But to me, it's the Hall of Fame. And I was like, damn. I was like, okay. Right. Yeah, and it's a fascinating argument.
And they get to be on the ballot for 3 years. You could still see Ivanovic and Pennetta and all of them could still make it on. So no one needs to panic just yet. These things take time, and it feels like Ivanovic just retired anyway, so it's okay.
It's only 3 years. I thought it was 5. I
think it's 5. Yeah. Has it been 5 years? Yeah.
No. Sorry, it's only 3 years. You're on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Yeah. I think continuously, and you can come back. I'm not sure what the rules are. I need to look into that.
You're right. It's the.
I am on a committee, but my committee is like No, relevant. I don't
Junior.
vote.
It's a junior committee. Junior committee.
Exactly.
It's not irrelevant. Yeah.
We brainstorm and host events. We don't vote.
You're on one of the brainstorming committees. That's funny.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. All right. With that said, let's talk about the tennis, because you're right.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately, it's been drowned out a bit in the mainstream conscious, but of course, it is never drowned out here at Cracked Racquets, and we know it is our job to ensure you listeners remain the best informed, most well-educated fans in the business. As such, we've tried to break down this Australian Open from every possible angle, talking about the men's contenders, men's dark horses, women's dark horses, but on this show, we're talking contenders, and a theme that has permeated all of our episodes, and I think is one of the critical ones heading into this 2022 professional tennis season, is the idea of the generational shift we've all talked about over the past couple of years. And obviously it feels a bit more prominent on the men's side, mostly because of the dominance of Rafa and Djokovic, who I think have won 12 out of the last 14 Grand Slams. But certainly Medvedev wins his first, Thiem wins his first, Zverev wins multiple ATP Tour finals and wins a gold medal, and the Casper Ruuds of the world, Hubie Hurkacz's of the world, Jannik Sinner's, FAA's of the world, they're making their push. On the women's side, it feels notable, once again, that the oldest Grand Slam champion in the 2021 season is 26-year-old Barbara Krejcikova, right? And certainly I don't think anyone would consider her a veteran, given last year was really our first exposure to her at the highest WTA levels, of course. Barty, 25 years old, and Naomi Osaka still, 23, 24, Rybakina, 18 when she wins the U.S. Open. I think it's time to put the term generational shift to bed, Nina. I think the shift has happened, right? Like I'm pretty sure that Pliskova and Muguruza, 29, 28, are the oldest women in the top 10 as well. That's not old. I think we have seen, and it feels notable, no Serena Williams in the draw. I feel like the generational shift has happened in both the men's and women's game.
The shift is interesting in the women's game because it feels less obvious, right? As you've explained here, like the women are older. So we have women in their mid-20s that are the favorites to win the title. And it feels like it's a shift because they're not in their 30s, because they're not Serena and Venus. But it's different. I think you explained it pretty well there. But I think the shift has happened. It was just so gradual. And the difference has been that we haven't had Serena winning 12 of the last 14 majors. So it's been a far more open game. And there's been so many different winners, which is really exciting and fun. And I think that's why I'm really glad we're talking about the women this time, because the men are a mess. So this is great.
Yeah, it feels like one of those staggered race starts where it's like we're handing the baton off and slowly people have
I think anyone could win this Australian Open, just because I felt the same way last year as well. I feel like it's just, Naomi Osaka is an obvious favorite. I think we're getting into this, but there's no one that I'm like, you know what? They are guaranteed to win this slam.
Mm-hmm. No, I would completely agree with you. And with that in mind, again, we've put together a list of top contenders for this event. On that note, I do just kind of want to explore that thought, because I did the dark horse episode version of this, and it's like, is Belinda Bencic really a dark horse? Yeah, she's a 22 seed, but she just won the Olympics, and we know how good she can be when she plays her best tennis. It's like Victoria Azarenka, who, if you've watched the first 2 weeks, looked excellent week one, despite being knocked out in 3 sets by Swiatek. It's like, is someone who, just made the Indian Wells final 4 months ago, made the U.S. Open final 18 months ago, and won the Western and Southern Open there as well. Do you consider her a dark horse, or is she a contender? It's really tough for me, to come up with these contenders, because to your point, I think it's wide open.
It is. And I think a dark horse has to be, this was at tennis.com, has to be unseeded or below 16 seed. So Bencic could be one because she's 22. So there's a lot of players I think that are unseeded that are massive threats, at least to make it to week 2. Maybe they won't win, but we can get into it. But I got a few on my list I've got one on my list unseeded.
Yeah, no, that's what we're talking about. If there's an unseeded now,
love that.
You have my attention thoroughly. Well, I love tiers as well. I can't help it. When I'm making a list, I break it down by groups. To me, there are 2 players definitively in a tier above everyone else when you look at the contenders entering this 2022 Australian Open women's singles competition. And to me, those 2 players are Ashley Barty and Naomi Osaka. Let's just start there. Would you agree with that assessment?
So that's great because I have Ashley Barty as my top, and I was like, Naomi, nah, which is messed up, because she is absolutely a favorite, but I did not put her on my list. And I had a reason for it.
Interesting.
My reason is because her section of the draw is brutal.
Yeah.
No, well, maybe not her. I think like Amanda Anisimova is in such great form right now and has like nothing to lose, which is pretty dangerous. So I've picked Anisimova to get out of that section.
Yeah. Ooh.
Which is bold because she played Bencic in round 2.
I was going to say,
I feel like in, like being more like you and just picking, these like dark, crazy horses. And I think Barty would beat Osaka if they were to face off. I think it'd be 4th round.
Well,
so that's why.
I was going to say, I make it a point not to look at the draw when I do these sorts of things.
I don't like picking people that are in the same section because it's like, well, I can't be like, oh, Osaka and Barty, they're my top 2 when like they play each other in the 4th round. So that's a bold. So
I'm going to actually disagree with that and say that's why they're my top 2 because one of them's probably getting through. It's like one of them's going to look good in the end. So at least you're getting something right. But I just think it's worth mentioning. You look for Naomi Osaka, again, since the start of the restart in August of 2020. She's 30-4 on hard courts. And, you look at who the losses are to. 3 sets to Leylah Fernandez, which in the moment felt weird. Fernandez goes on to make the U.S. Open final. I don't think that's a bad loss. 1-4 to Vondrousova in Tokyo. Again, on paper, doesn't look the best. Vondrousova, though, goes on to win the silver medal. Osaka had not played since Miami. Yes, she was in the French Open draw. She doesn't end up playing that French Open. So I don't think that's a particularly poor loss. She loses 0-4 to Sakkari in the Miami quarterfinals. Again, I don't view that as a bad loss. And then the only other 2 withdrawals to Mertens last year before the Australian Open, a withdrawal to Azarenka in that Western and Southern final. I think I don't want to say we forget, but I think we undervalue the fact that Naomi Osaka has proven when she is healthy, she is the best women's player on a hard court. When she is serving well and playing front foot tennis and moving well and fit, she's just better than everyone else. She can get to a range of power tennis and all right, it's going to slip out. She's obviously a member at Serena Williams Power Tennis Country Club, owns one of the nicest houses in the block. I think I saw enough from her in that first week, and it wasn't the toughest draw, Cornet and Zanevska and Petkovic, but she beat them all. And I thought she looked progressively better throughout the course of the tournament. I saw all I needed to see from her in week 1. There were moments when she played her best tennis. And her best is still better than everyone else's. And
the walk. Okay, look, I think Naomi Osaka is a threat to win every tournament. Of course, I completely agree with that. But Barty is just so much more stable. Barty has lost 2 matches since before Wimbledon.
Yeah,
it's outrageous. No. And I know she doesn't play that much. I get it. She's picking and choosing her calendar very well and casually winning doubles titles sometimes. But she just seems a lot more stable. But then the added pressure of home slam is a pro and con for someone like Barty because it's nerve wracking to play at home. But I think it's gonna be 50% capacity. I guess that's good. So I don't know. I just think if I had to pick like who was going to be a Barty Osaka match next week, I would be like Barty. Barty's just. Also, I'm looking at my probability sites, my probability insights by Universal Tennis, and it's this cool head-to-head thing that we have. And like, look, take it with a grain of salt, but it says right now if they played 70% chance that Barty would beat Osaka.
So
that's based on so much stuff, though. It's based on their ratings. It's based on their head-to-head record. It's based on their common opponents, which is kind of cool because you don't think about that, right? Like who they've beaten and lost to, and then based on like their best win and best loss. And it's only the past, past a year, past 15 months.
I'm in. I mean, I like to use, not to plug the competition, I am a big fan of the Jeff Sackman's Tennis Abstract, all of the match head-to-heads.
No, you can have them both. It's okay.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. This is another data point, though.
They're different,
I'm literally putting that in the queue, like, okay, look up the UTR head-to-heads throughout the week. It is just, you talk about the Barty side. And again, I think they're both tier 1. Like, I would go, tough question. I mean, I would still say Osaka 1A, Barty 1B. I think Naomi Osaka has a game inherently built to beat an Ashley Barty. She just does the one thing that can still expose the closest thing Barty has to a weakness, which is just big serve into the backhand over and over and over again. And what was so crazy about Barty's Adelaide title was how ho-humming it was. Like, I think the 3-set win over Coco Gauff is going to age well because watching Gauff play, I know she lost last night. We're recording this Friday, January 14th, I want to say. She's just lost a 3-set semifinal to Madison Keys, but Madison Keys is playing some great tennis right now.
You made my list.
Yeah.
Let's go Madison.
So that makes you so happy because I proposed her as a dark horse yesterday to David Kane, and he shot me down very hard. And I was like, you're wrong, David. You're just wrong about this one.
She's showing that like spark of brilliance we've been waiting for. You know, like this is her. She's had time to kind of like hide out, and now she's ready to win.
I could not agree more. And again, I want to get back to her, but for Barty. Comes back from a set and a breakdown to beat Gauff. I think Gauff was playing pretty well. And obviously, I think if you watch Gauff play, whether it was the match against Konya, the match against Kostyuk, she's playing good ball heading into. She's just rejuvenated, refreshed. That's a good win. Barty just stretched Kenin into the outer thirds of the court and made that match physical and looked so much better as a mover from the Gauff match to the Kenin match. The Swiatek match was just phenomenal. Like, that was peak Ashley Barty. Swiatek was playing lights out, and, Barty still beat her. The Rybakina match was just weird, but again, Barty ends up getting a title on home soil. It's a very narrow 1B, and again, these two are, in my opinion, definitively on a tier above everyone else. When I think contenders, these are the two names that come to mind. I just think when Osaka serves well, everyone else loses. And it's like, I think she's going to serve well. And therefore, I think everyone else will lose. That's a good X factor, the serve. I do. I'll give you that. I cannot wait for them to play in the fourth round, and we'll be up at 4 a.m. watching this and arguing. It's going to be great. Let's Twitter Spaces. Just me, you, Barty, Osaka. That sounds like a good time. Great. Yeah, it's exactly. That's my tier one. I think there's five players, and the middle tier then is one person? No, the middle tier is 17 people. Oh, great. The middle tier might be, 117 of the 128 draw. I think I left out Storm Sanders because I was like, I don't think I can talk. You won doubles with Barty. That's a confidence boost. I know. See? Even right there, you're making the case. All right, 118 players. You don't have to make another case for me. But all right, those are my top two. That's tier one. Is it safe to say Barty is in her own tier for you? If you were to make it into tiers. It's safe to say that I've chosen Barty as her own tier, even though she's in that section, and even though you make a great argument there. Yeah, I'm thinking Barty. Yeah, it's a brutal section of the draw. Really, but that kind of makes it more rewarding. I hate when I don't hate this, but I'm saying when players get through a draw and they play unseeded players and they win a title, you're like, oh, it's great, but it's just not as compelling. So this is far more interesting. Music to my ears. I think it's a little different right now because, again, the depth in the women's game. There are players ranked 40 where you're just like Vondrousova is not in the top 32. That's a joke. And again, former Grand Slam finalist, 22 years old. Don't sleep on the Drews. But all of that said, give me the next name on your list. I had Annette Kontaveit. Oh, that's a great name. Even post 7-6 loss in the third to Krejcikova. I know, but I think it's good to get a few days off. If you're going to lose any time, the semifinals of this week is a good time because you've got a few wins in, and then you have time to recover and kind of process. And I don't think she's losing sleep over that match. I think she's going to be okay. I think there's no other player that had as ridiculous of a second half of 2021 as she did, absolutely outrageous. And to make the semifinals means that she's carrying that momentum on. She didn't just, start slow. So I have a lot of hope in her. And I also I love the story. It's great. So it's a good call. You look for Annette Kontaveit. I'm trying to think if she earns this Grand Slam title in Australia, is able to finish the job. Where do we rank this run in terms of the all-time runs? It's really, you start to think about, again, how successful Kontaveit, has been since what? When did this run start? I want to say Moscow or Ostrava last year. No, Cleveland. It started earlier. Cleveland. It was Cleveland. Yeah. Yeah, which is just remarkable. You look for her since Cleveland. So, yeah, that's August 16th, 2021. Since that Cleveland victory, she goes on there and, again, played a really fun 3-set match against Swiatek at the U.S. Open. But since that time, 32-6 overall. Over, again, a 6-month run, and, it makes the championship finals and makes the finals of the championship finals as well. She's been outstanding. I won't lie. She was second to last in my tier 2 because I just yeah. When have we seen Krejcikova make Krejcikova? See, you can see it's built into my head now. When have we seen Kontaveit make that deep run at a Grand Slam?
She hasn't. She's made one quarterfinal,
and that
but
to
it was
me
at
is
the Australian Open.
It's true. And look, she's got a really well-rounded game. Like, again, tell me what's the weakness for Anett Kontaveit?
I think she has nothing to lose, which is a big factor. When you go into a Grand Slam and you only have like upswing, like that's such a good feeling of being like, look, if I win a match or 2 or 3, like that's only going to add things. If you lose early, no one's going to be like, oh my God, she lost. Like she's a 16, but like she kind of got there out of nowhere. So I think she has a lot of potential outswing, and that's a nice way to go into a tournament.
She checked off all the boxes in week number 1. I mean, again, the bagel over Krejcikova in the first set and fighting off the match points the way she did. She's swinging the ball so cleanly. Do you think Aryna Sabalenka's like, can I please have Turnsunov back? Like, I really need...
She just needs her serve back, and she'll be fine.
She's like, can I just rent him for 2 days? I need 2 days with Dimitri on the serve, and then you can take him back in that. Yeah, Kontaveit's got to be on the short list. She's earned it. In terms of recent form, and I'm sure if you look at the current UTR, she's got to be top 5, right? Like, she's 3 in the ELO ratings on Tennis Abstract, or maybe even number 2 right now in the women's game. Let's see, Anett Kontaveit currently number 2 behind Barty and ahead of Muguruza and Halep and, all the rest.
She's 2 in the Universe Tennis rankings, which is like a pretty sizable jump from 6 when you're talking top 10. Like, that's noticeable.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And
that's how she got to number 2 in my list. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Science.
And yeah, by the way, one of the 8 people last year to finish top 20 in both hold percentage, break percentage, which makes sense when you go 32-6 over 6 months. You're probably doing everything pretty well. I do think it's, again, why is she a little bit lower? Because she only has the 1 quarterfinal run, and I do wonder once we get to that final 8, which I think she has every intention of reaching, and I think every capability of reaching as well. She is playing that well. And from the eye test, I would say 7th best performer I've seen thus far. Thus, she's at the bottom of tier 2. But, so my next name, and again, going through the list, I think it's pretty tough to find a clear cut here. Or I should say my name just above Kontaveit in my tier is Barbara Krejcikova. And, again, as good as 32-6 is, Barbara Krejcikova is 34-10 since May of last year. 34-10. And let's be clear, she lost 6 matches in a row. Indian Wells, she loses round of 16. She loses both Billie Jean King Cup matches, and then she loses all 3 at the Guadalajara finals. You take those 6 out, she's 34-4. Again, you want to take out the 2 wins at Indian Wells as well, fine. She's 32-4 if you remove those 3 events. Since the end of May last year. Come on now. And she's already won a Grand Slam final. And she's made a U.S. Open quarterfinal subsequently since then. Round of 16 at Wimbledon, where she lost to the Grand Slam champ in Barty. She loses in Tokyo to the gold medalist in 3 sets in Bencic. The Krejcikova thing is real. All of it's real. And watching her come back last night, again, what's the weakness? How do I beat Barbara Krejcikova? You better have the weapons to hit her off the court. And, Osaka's got him. That's really it.
Look, you're right. This is a great pick. It's on my list as well. I think that she's done an incredible job of going from doubles to singles. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this so late. Not late. I mean, she's still young, but late in her career in a way. To come out of nowhere and become this absolute singles powerhouse is unbelievable. And then she has no weaknesses, which is what you said. And it seems that she's owned it. You could see maybe having a run and getting a little intimidated, overwhelmed by the situation. Instead, she's like, no, I'm going to be consistent and have this belief in myself. And yeah, she had that loss of 6 matches. But look, that's a good timing to have a loss of 6 matches. It's fine. No big deal. Grand Slams matter more. I think that it also maybe gave her a moment to reset and refresh. And you obviously learn a lot more from your losses than your wins. So there's positives out of having a losing streak for sure. And to have it at the end of the year and then come back and now she's in the finals of Sydney is great. So that's a very good pick. But have we looked? I mean, you don't look at draws, which is outrageous.
Well, the problem is I saved the draw shows for last, and it's just
she's in a good section. She's in a section with my other favorite, Yelena Ostapenko, but my sleeper. But she's in a decent section. She opens against Petkovic.
Yeah. I guess my fundamental thing why I don't look at the draw, because if I'm going to believe in a player, the draw shouldn't matter. Like that is really, that's why I try to, I know, yeah, you like that platism?
I like that.
With the cool, with the coaches. But yeah, it's just like, that's why, and by the way, I have this thing, so Patrick Mahomes is like a month older than me, maybe a little less, or a little over a month older than me, and so I always tell myself, oh, you've got a month, Alex. You've got a month until you have to figure it all out, because Mahomes is a month older than you, so you're fine. Krejcikova is like 2 months younger than me. Devastating to my developmental path. I'm like, now I'm 2 months behind after Krejcikova breaks through and wins, wins just about everything last year.
I mean, what are you trying to do? Win the Australian Open?
I would think so. Like, there's a spot open. I'll tell you who's a lucky loser, this guy, throughout the course of his career. But yeah, Krejcikova is closer to the bottom of tier 2 than she is at the top for me. Because I do think there are players who can, on their best days, again, have the weapons to kind of take the ball off her racket, and as well as she absorbs and redirects, and as good as she is at moving forward, I still think the best version of Sabalenka knocks out Krejcikova. The best version of some of these other players who are a little higher on my list, although Sabalenka did not crack this list for the first time in 6 slams. Yeah, you can't double fault 20 times twice and expect to be on this contender list.
Having a moment.
Yeah, although,
crises.
Of course, this is where she might actually be most dangerous. Because, she still almost won the matches. She was horrible serving, and she still almost won both of her matches, which is...
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, exactly. Sabalenka's already been inducted to Serena Williams Power Tennis Country Club. I think I've made my thoughts on her clear over the years. But, again, we have still not gotten to the top of my tier 2. Kontaveit is what, 2 on your list, you said?
Yes.
So then give me number 3. Because
it was Krejcikova.
Okay, perfect. So now, are we in tier 2 yet, or are we still in tier 1? Or is Barty your only tier 1?
I only have 5 people on my list. So if Kontaveit is my third... Oh, sorry, Krejcikova was my third, then I'm in the bottom 2 right now. Okay,
inevitably. Yeah, this is, again, I cheat. I say let's do 5 people, and then I cheat. Top of my tier 2, and the problem with this pick is I'm always worried the moment you think she's going to win something, she loses, but the moment you counter out, and I mean the very moment you counter out, she goes ahead and wins Guadalajara. Of course, I'm talking about Garbine Muguruza, who probably, if you play last year's Australian Open 100 times, wins it at least 5 times. I mean, she had 2 match points on eventual champion Naomi Osaka, and then she goes through, I forget what comes first, Doha or Dubai, but she finals the first one, wins the second one last year, and was just, I thought she was the best player through the first 3 months of the 2021 WTA season, and I think her peak last year was as high as anyone else's on tour, and obviously she closes it out with the Guadalajara final, dominates in her first match over Alexandrova here this week. Now gets knocked out by a very much informed Krejcikova, who was I talked about with David Kane in my sleepers pick. Krejcikova moving the ball extraordinarily well right now. But then I went back and watched the Alexandrova highlights before today's podcast, and I mean, when Muguruza is playing line drive tennis, she's just like the combination of size, speed, fluidity, and power. It's just like she's got it all. She does check off every box where she's quick enough and long enough to track down the +1 ball of an Osaka, but also, physical and punishing enough to hurt a Barty on her best day as well. Like, on paper, Muguruza is the option. It's just all mental for her. And, I kind of like that she lost going into the week because some of the hype has died down.
I mean, there wasn't that much hype to begin with, which is great for her because being a little under the radar is good. As number 3 seed as well, which is an impressive feat.
Yeah.
Again, you hate draws, but she's in a very good section of the draw. So I see your point, but I also think that you've picked way too many obvious picks.
I know.
I mean, if we're going to go with the top 4 seed, we skipped Sabalenka. That was good for us.
Good for the brand.
Yeah, it's good for the brand. Yeah, no, she's a 2-time Grand Slam champion. Of course, she's an obvious choice. And she has been playing great tennis, and she's a 3rd seed, and being a little under the radar is good, I think, for her.
And would be mentally. 1 away from a career Grand Slam if she wins this title.
Sorry, she's a 3-time Grand Slam champion. Woo!
Yeah, she would be 1 away. She gets this again. French Open, Wimbledon. This would be the Australian Open title she's been looking for. I mean, She's just good. You're right. Like these things are way too obvious. I agree with you, and that's why, again, when we get to name number 4, my second name in tier 2.
Are you gonna pick Clara Towson?
Yeah, I thought about it. Ann Lee was on the list. I was like, do I just make the Haley Baptiste pick now?
Ann Lee's been doing well.
I know, Ann Lee. I mean, I think, again, if you're doing a dark horse pick, like if you're going to go read the tennis.com or the ESPN, whatever, our experts make the picks, I can guarantee you right now all of them will have either Clara Towson or Ann Lee as the dark horse. Like, you can just, lock that in right now. Number 4 on my list. All right, you want to hear a slightly different name outside the top 10, although, hovering by that top 10 and inching closer and closer to it. But my number 4 name is Elena Rybakina. Because I just think, again, talk about Serena Williams Power Tennis Country Club. She will be in it someday. And watching her hit some cross-court forehands last week where she's just, her feet are set, her momentum's moving forward in the court. If she can do that, doesn't matter where she is on the court, she can hit a forehand winner by you. And her ability to lean into that backhand as well, take it down the line, rip the winner cross-court, which I actually think is the more impressive winner to hit. She just... There's a lot of things Rybakina can do on the court. And again, a combination of size, power, fluidity. She's ended every season of her career ranked higher than the season prior. She's now up to number 12 in the live rankings, which is a career high. She was top 10 in hold percentage last year, 47th in break percentage. Foundationally, she's too good a player to be that low in terms of breaking serve, and I think that comes down to shot choice, being a little less aggressive with that return of serve, even though she can hit any return for a winner when she connects with it well. I will be shocked if Rybakina doesn't enter the top 10 this season. I also think she's got another Grand Slam quarterfinal run in her.
She does. I think this is a perfect player for someone who could make a deep run. I don't know if she's ready to win a major just because of the lack of experience. She's still very young and a little bit can be a little bit shaky in times. But that goes with the big power tennis. That's the price you have to pay to be in Serena's Country Club. Yeah. So I think it's a good choice for someone who's going to go very deep. I think. She's proven to be a top 10 contender. If she's not top 10 this year, I agree with you. That would be shocking. She's already number 12. She's on the edge. She
also made Grand Slam quarterfinal last year at the French Open and made another run at Wimbledon, losing in
on
3.
Clay, right?
To Sabalenka. And so, yeah, exactly. It's just... She's good. And it's just eventually we're going to start factoring her into second weeks consistently and just seeing her make multiple quarterfinals. Although, to ask any player on the WTA Tour to make multiple quarterfinals, semifinals at the Slam, only one player made the 4th round at all 4 Slams last year. Can you guess who that player was?
Ooh. No.
Iga Swiatek. Only one to make 4th round. I know, and it's now I don't think she made a single quarterfinal. I think she lost in all 4 4th rounds. But, should count for something. Should count for something that a 20-year-old's the only one who does it at all 4 slams.
That should count. That does count for something. That is great.
Well, when we do a year-end award show, we'll call it the Swiatek Award. Who made it to the round of 16 or further?
She deserves this, at the very least.
All right. Let's get into the Keys conversation.
All right, Keys. Look, Keys, I just looked up her record, and last year was not her best. There was a 6-match losing streak. Things were not going well for her. But that's exactly why having this great start to 2022 is so, so important, because it shows a reset. It looks like she's maybe change of at least her mindset. Something's changed in a very, very good way. And another my theme this podcast has been having nothing to lose. She really should be just going for it. She's ranked outside the top 50. She's almost out of the top 100. Why not play to your heart's content at this point and try not to stress out about it, which is working. She's in the finals of which one was she in? Adelaide playing against Alison Risk. Ooh, that's juicy.
So Madison Keys up to number 60 now, up 27 spots with her success this week. I'm curious where she's at from a UTR basis.
Yeah, she's top 50 in UTR. She's 44, which she deserves to should be ranked top 20. Let's be real. But it's always interesting when the WTA ranking and the UTR ranking is different, just because the UTR ranking, it shows where she's at the second. WTA is going to catch up next week because they are weekly. But I do love that about our ratings. It shows up every twice a day. It's updated, and it's based on how many games you win. It's crazy.
I'm curious what her peak UTR is as well, because I know that's something, and how that peak UTR compares to others. Because again, she's someone who's made a Grand Slam final, right? And you look at the peak ELO rating, it's up, it's a top 15 sort of number. Her best has proven it can be that good. And Madison Keys is only 26 years old. Again, I'm hovering around people my age, Krejcikova, Keys, but that's not old. She's been part of the ecosystem forever, but that's usually when the prime is.
It's been over 10 years for her of being on the pro tour and in spotlight. She deserved a little bit of a little bit of a break from the spotlight, and she got it last year. And now it's why not? Why not have the same result she did before? I mean, she made a U.S. Open final. Why not do it again? It just seems like in her wheelhouse on hard courts. She trains in Florida, right? So she's used to the heat. She's used to the sun. It just seems like really good conditions for her.
Yeah. And no, I mean, again, I suppose more broadly, it's an eye test sort of thing because the numbers won't back it up right now. But she looks fit and healthy right now.
And she's playing a bunch of Americans.
And she's hard hitters, too. It's not as though it's been a cupcake draw. It's like Samsonova was playing lights out. Coco Gauff was playing lights out. She beats them both in 3 sets.
And she's in the same, she opens against Sofia Kenin, and then she's in the same little section as Coco Gauff for the 3rd round. So a heavy American draw, but that could be good because you're used to your opponents, you're familiar, it can be awkward, but it also can be nice to know who you're playing.
It is a brutal section, but also talk about the confidence she can gain. You get through Kenin round 1, who's not playing her best, but is still the seed there. You can get through another American in Gauff in round 3. Then you've hit the second week and you are clicking on all cylinders. I had her more dark horse than contender, but, I mean, if she plays this well... And again, David Kane seemed to insinuate that in the pressure-packed moments, that has not always been the brightest moment for Madison Keys throughout the course of her career, that she has come up short.
But that's why maybe this is going to be a whole new year. Maybe last year was a reality check, a reset moment, and now we're going to have a whole new Madison Keys who love... Again, maybe I'm dreaming. But who knows?
No, you've talked me into it. I'm a fan. Are you, when a player plays the week before a slam, it's a little different here in January because everyone's fresh, but are you usually predisposed to picking them or picking against them? Because last year, and I know Sinner won the title, Drew Shapo round 1. I don't know anyone who picked Sinner to win that match because it was just, you could see he was drained at the end of the week before. Keys has played back-to-back 3-setters. She'll have a day off, I think, before her first round match, but that, for someone who didn't play that much tennis last year, that's a little concerning.
It's a little concerning because she's injury prone, right? But
exactly.
I think men and women are different. So I think when the men get tired, they have to play a best of 5 sets. So that is a whole different argument. With the women, I think that she does get 1 or 2 days off. Playing against Alison Risk in the final is going to be brutal and tough and challenging no matter who wins. It's going to be a physical match. But I think it's, in a way, it's good for her because she hasn't played that much. It is a little bit dicey coming up so close to it. But in this particular situation, every situation is different. In this situation, I think it's good as long as she does not get some kind of injury, which fingers crossed.
No, fair. All right. With that in mind, do you want to hear my Meyer Sharif case? Why I think she can win? No, I'm just kidding.
That is a great, exactly what I would expect from you.
Yeah, that would have been
a great example. This is what I came here for.
I know. I wish I had a Sharif case. I could make a Kostyuk case. I've definitely got a 2-minute pitch from Marta Kostyuk in me. I'm
that's a good player.
Yeah, I'm looking down here in the rankings and okay, who can I talk myself into the most? I don't know.
I had Ostapenko because she has, I feel like I've had a theme here where I'm people aren't really talking about her. So maybe this is her moment to pull another Roland Garros miracle out of her back pocket, but it's a stretch.
Well, I'm trying to forget I'm trying to remember who'd she play in singles this week. She lost to Badosa in the first match,
which is fine.
Yeah, and Badosa would be on the bottom of my second tier. Again, there's some players. We haven't talked about her. I think Iga it belongs on that short list as well. She's right around tier 2, tier 3. She played so well last week and just.
You could name the entire top 50 of WTA, and they'd have a case for winning this title.
So can I throw one more out there? I think this one's a little funky, but when we're talking Lamp and Lop, last American male, last American women's player, I would say, and I'm pretty sure she's up in that top section of the draw as well, which is just brutal. And she might even play Anisimova first. But Shelby Rogers, Oh my God, did Shelby look good last week? And just quarterfinalist, I believe, at this event last year. I want to look at where she's at in the draw.
She's playing Anna Konja, who's back from injury, and then she's in the same section as Dolehide and Collins would play them next round. So another American section.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, Shelby, again, quarterfinalist last year. I just think she's so confident right now, so fit as well, playing the best tennis of her career. I could see a push there.
I would see her making it to the third round out of that section, like beating the Collins or Dolehide. I could see that happening for sure. But then Kontaveit, I'm not sure what happened there. That could be a very good match, though.
Yeah, she's got the sort of weapons, though, to put a net on her back foot. And so that, to me, gets interesting.
That's a great pick. Would I pick her to win the entire thing? I don't think so. But to make it to week 2, yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. All right. Do I want to make – I'm looking Kaya Yuvan. Do we see the Fiona Ferro push that I thought was possible?
I feel like we've wasted enough people's time. I do love seeing the name changes for Gavrilova to Seville. And then Sloane Stevens, though, is still Sloane Stevens. That's a great name. You can't change Sloane Stevens.
Is she going by Sloane Altidore?
No, she's not in the draw, but I would be surprised if she did, just because it's a sweet name.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I've thought about this before, especially during these coaching interviews I've done. I'm like, which of these last names would I be better as? I was interviewing, this is, again, totally off topic here, but I was interviewing Arkansas women's tennis head coach and former All-American Cristina Sanchez-Quintanar. And I was like, do you know how much better I would be at podcasting if I was Alex Sanchez-Quintanar? Alex Gruskin, average. Alex Sanchez-Quintanar, that would be my silence do-good.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
You were saying David Kane's name a lot in this podcast, and I was like, that's a great name.
It is.
That's a strong name.
Yeah, it is a good one. It does the job, for sure. I mean, look, I like Alex Gruskin. I like Nina Pantic. Both great names. But we could do better. Again, we
could improve.
Should we start going under pseudonyms? I don't know.
Well, if I'm going to ever actually have my biased opinions out in the world, I'd have to have a pseudonym.
Yeah, exactly. Silence, do bad. That would be my go-to. Yeah, I think I'd go by UTR since that's now free, since you guys are Universal Tennis.
Exactly. You can be my UTR. That's definitely free.
Jeff Sackman said, I'm going to commit a crime someday. I'm going to be on the run, but then I'm going to tweet something out in typical fashion, and it'll be the giveaway. It'll be some sort of take about the World 56 at the time, and they'll be like, all right, he's hiding in the Caymans. We found him. And it's I was like, that's... It's not impossible. It's certainly on the spectrum of scenarios. But with all of that said, do I want to ask you for a prediction? Do I want to be mean? Do you want to give a prediction?
Who I think is going to win?
Who wins I'm
going to pick Barty. I'm going to pick Barty because it's the safest possible choice, and that is how soft I am today.
All right, fair.
Barty followed by my second choice, Madison Keys. A balance of good and crazy.
I thought you were saying good and evil. I was going to laugh.
No, I meant a good safe choice and a crazy choice.
I like that. What about men's side?
Ooh, men's side. That's impossible because what's going on?
It's true. I mean, you could just
I'm
say
going to go with Rafa. You know what? Even if Novak is in the draw, let's just go with Rafa because he's been so calm and he just won a tournament, and that's also a pro and con for him, but he has a little bit of a break, so it's fine. I'm going to go with Rafa, and I'm going to go with Barty.
I think this could be the tournament of Sinner. He's in the Tsitsipas section. Yeah, it's a double entendre. I just think the Sin Man, I mean, I watched him at ATP Cup, and he just looked ready. Just everything about him just seemed ready for a break.
He'll make the semifinals then. He's not going to win it.
I'm just saying. That would be my pick if I'm being creative on the men's side. If I'm being basic, I would probably pick Zverev.
Pick who? Pick who?
I'd probably pick Zverev. I hate to say it.
What? How's that basic? That's an outrageous choice.
Zverev on the Is it?
Yeah. Come on.
He's the 3 seed. All right, well, according to not UTR, but according to Tennis Abstract, if they're all in the draw, it's 30% Medvedev, 30% Djokovic, 20% Zverev. If they're not both in the draw, it becomes 40% Medvedev, 30% Zverev. Big drop.
All right. Well, look, if we're going to be putting out these kind of calculations on a podcast with me, Jesus, we have our insides prediction is 23% Novak, 21% Medvedev, 15% Nadal. Zverev is not even making a 15%. He's down at a 12.
Okay,
He's
but
fourth.
I think that's that's rewarding Nadal for past performance. I think
it's rewarding him for just no. It's not past performance. It's based on the past 15 months. That's the stats.
Interesting.
So everything that we do, all of our stats are based only in the last 15 months because time degrades the value of your past results. I mean, you know, you can make an argument for that one.
Here. I was going to say, you said we weren't going to get political here, but you're...
Well, look, now that you've mentioned Tennis Abstract 50 times... No, I'm kidding. And then the Insights chooses Barty at 17%, and the next person was actually Badosa at 10%, but Kontaveit also 10%. So, you know...
That's fair. Badosa at 10, yeah, that might be the one we missed on this. Although
we did sleep on that one, but that's okay.
Yeah, you know what? That's too normal. Or look for the Putintseva. That's what I'm saying. Yulia Putintseva. She's winning this. 0.2% chance according to UTR. Universal Tennis, excuse me.
Wow.
All right. With all that said, Nina, what can we expect from you and the crew throughout the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I'll be covering the tournament for Universal Tennis. The direct link is blog.universaltennis.com, but you'll find it on Twitter and on my accounts. And you definitely should be following at Universal Tennis on Twitter and Instagram because we have tons of good content coming. I mean, like I've mentioned, our stuff is based on stats over the past 15 months. Our Insights is actually a pretty cool tool because it shows the predictions by percentage, making it really simple to follow, like head to head and like who is supposed to win this match. Would I put money on any of this? No, but it is really helpful. So it's fun to cover a tournament based more on stats than anything, you know, versus my extreme biased opinions.
No, I disagree. I prefer your biased opinions over numbers. Numbers are overrated. Your opinions never lie. But with that said, Nina, as always, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Be safe, be healthy. I say we talk over the next 2 weeks. I'm dragooning you for at least one mini break episode.
We'll see what happens with the Barty Osaka showdown.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're still friends.
I'll see you on Spaces in 3 days, 4 days, whatever it may be.
Perfect.
Yes, thank you as always. Hope all of you enjoyed my conversation with Universal Tennis's Nina Pantic. A thank you to Nina, as always, for tolerating my nonsense, being willing to come on the show. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to chat with her throughout the 2 weeks at the Australian Open, get her thoughts on all of the action as it unfolds. Of course, again, you can follow all of her work on Twitter, all of her work on the Universal Tennis website as well. If you're not following it, you're just missing out on fantastic work. So again, a thank you to Nina for coming on the show. Again, plenty of preview content for all of you listeners. We've talked men's and women's top contenders. We've talked men's and women's dark horses. We've talked about the Americans we'll be watching most closely, our irrational excitement for players earlier in the week as well. Draw previews coming up this weekend. We'll have qualifying recaps for you tomorrow as well. And of course, again, David Kane going to come on the show later to not only talk about the latest developments in the Novak Djokovic saga, but also talk about the tennis we've seen unfold on court this week, how that impacts what we expect to happen at the Australian Open moving forward. Of course, all of that content available, plus some thoughts on the upcoming college tennis season kicks off in spades this weekend, all of that and so much more, all available on our website, crackedrackets.com. Of course, like, rate, subscribe, review to this show, the Great Shot Podcast, Correct Interviews Podcast, and our YouTube channel to ensure you don't miss out on any of our content. If you need the more immediate updates, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, we are at Cracked Rackets. You want to message me directly, I am at A.L. Gruskin. A shout out, as always, to our super producer, Daniel Westoff, for the of an editing job he does day in, day out. Shout out as well to our friends at Tennis Point. You all know the deal. Tennis-point.com. That promo code is CR15. With all of that said, for my fantastic guest, Nina Pantic, our super producer, Daniel Westoff, our friends at Tennis Point, from all of us here at both Cracked Rackets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. You know what we say. That's the break. And we'll talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.